Yeah, I'm going to try and show you how I make my salamis today. So I don't usually make them in our kitchen, but I decided to make them here because it seems to be easier to prop the camera up in various places and also get someone to hold it for me. So a little bit different from normal. I'm not going to go through all the things about cleanliness and all that type of thing, all that common sense. I'm sure you guys know all that. I'll just show you how I make my salamis and we can go from there. What I'll do is going to be making a fennel salami based on the Italian recipe, and it's got a bit of a tweak to it. I put a little bit of chili, bit of chipotle chilies in it, so slightly different. The reason I like it, well, I don't know, I like fennel, so but it came out quite well. It's always worked. It's maybe one of the easiest salamis to make. Okay, let's go. So things to get ready ahead of time. I get the cultures going. Oops, door's moving away. I get the cultures going. So the starter culture, which is the Flora Italiana, you can see here, and the back to firm mold 600 is what I put on the casing. So keep them in the freezer, and they last forever. So mix up some cultures beforehand, so they sit for a couple of hours before you're going to use them. I always tend to use more than they say, so like for the starter culture for the Flora Italiana it says 25 grams for 100 kilos, but I never get that sort of ratio. So mix it up, put a bit of tepid water in it, put it one side, and same for mold 600 as well. Selecting the meat for the salamis is pretty important. So what I have is I tend to mix in what my butcher calls trim, so that's what you would usually use for the sausage. So I get my butcher to make it up in sort of 10-pound packs, and then I add in leaner meat to that, because what we want is a much leaner mix of meat than you would normally have when you're making up sausages. So I use a lot less fat. So I'll just open this up and get trimming it up. So this meat's been frozen previously, no problem at all doing that. I just pull it out, and now I'm quite strict on what goes in. So normally stuff you'd maybe put through sausages, you might not put in, but I wouldn't put in. I'll trim it all out. So I'm just trying to get it to a size that will go through my little mincer. I haven't got a big commercial mincer, it's just a little domestic one. But if I'm doing a big batch, then I would get my butcher to just mince it for me. It just takes forever. So as you can see, if there's any glands, you find any glands, I take those out. I'm really looking to put sort of pretty good quality meat in the mix. Here's another one of the glands I'm talking about, so you can see it here, it's just embedded in the fat, so trim it out. Sharpen my knife again, just trim that out. So I split up the sort of, I like to get all the ingredients weighed out separately, do that as the second thing. So hopefully in the preparation I told you to tear your container, otherwise you'll have to tip it into another one. So this is 6943, and I know the tear is 453. So I've got a little spreadsheet I keep this in, but I can't update it at the moment because it's on the phone that's recording the video. But having accurate scales is really important. So I don't know, I'm sure there's loads of commercial scales, but make sure you've got a set of commercial scales to weigh it out. So I've just got this little commercial mincer, it's from Lakeland, I've had it for donkey's years. It works quite well, but it's really not very good when you're doing more than about 5 kilos. I never use the sausage stuffer on it. I think when I first got it I tried it, they're absolutely hopeless. Having a dedicated sausage stuffer is much better. Anyway, going to mince it. I'm using a, whatever it is, it's probably a 4mm grate. So I'll just sort that out. Put the blade in first. There we go. While I'm doing this, I put the meat back in the freezer just to chill it down. And you want to try and keep it cool all the time to avoid the fat melting. So with the meat weighed out, I can now do all the other things in terms of getting it prepped up before we're ready. So I've got some casings out, soaked them, leave them to soak. So then they should be ready by the time I've mixed out all the spices weighed out. So the casings I'm using at the moment, I'm using these ones from Scobies, they're ox runners. But I've used the Weschenfelder ones and the air dried ones from Weschenfelder. They're quite good because they keep forever and you can just, they only take a few minutes to soften up. So, but these ones I'm quite pleased with. I've got a couple of sizes. I've got a friend who wants a big salami, so I'll make his up. And then it's just about measuring out all the spices now. So I'll show you what I do for that as well. So the spice is all mixed out. I've done the full 0.5% of fennel, which I'm going to grind. I'm going to grind that down. And also the pepper, 0.5%, which I'm going to grind down as well. I'll add extra fennel later on as whole seeds. I quite like the aniseed flavour, so I end up with probably about 0.75% fennel in the end. Some chilli, mixture of chipotle chilies and red chilies. So I might add a few more once I see what the mix looks like. Okay, so grinding now. So I've ground up the pepper. I've added it to the salt and number 2 and dextrose. And I find it's a good way when you mix it in, because the pepper's dark, you can see whether you've got a nice even mix, because what I want to do is make sure that the cure, number 2 cure, is mixed in evenly across everything. So adding the pepper in gives you that contrast, and then you can see whether you've got an even mix or not. So I just find it useful. No fixed rules on garlic, it's just personal preference, but somewhere between 2 and 4 cloves a kilo. I tend to go for 2 or 3, just depends how big the garlic is, how powerful it is. Downside is we need lots of them, so this is the slowest part of the process, which seems to take forever. But I'll make a start and we'll go from there. Keep the meat cold. I return it to the freezer after I've trimmed it up, before I do the mincing, and just before I get it ready to mince, get it back out again. So it just helps to keep the fat from melting, keeps everything together. Other than that, mincing's very straightforward. Get the mince out your fridge and then add the salt and spice mix. I do it in layers to try and get a good even distribution throughout the whole mix. Don't forget to add your starter cultures in and the wine, and I use about half a bottle to about 5 kilos. I tend to do it by eye really. The wine loosens it up, makes it easier to put it in the sausage stuffer, so you don't want it sloppy, but don't make it too stiff and hard work for yourself. And then finally I sort of top up the chillies by eye as well, so just you sort of see how many are in the mix. 3 key things to remember with stuffing. 1, tie the ends off tightly, because 2, you're going to need to pack as much meat in there as possible and eliminate the air at this stage. You will prick them later on, but at this stage get as much meat in there and as little air. And then 3, remember to leave a long length of string on one end so that we can hang them up. Once you've filled your last salami, use what remains in the sausage stuffer to make a few samples. We'll need this to test the pH over the next couple of days, and then also you can use it when the salami's mature as a bit of a taster samples, just to check you're happy with everything. Don't forget to prick the salami, it's very important, so that as the skins dry out, they'll retract back and any air that's in there should get expelled as well. So this is the previous batch that are nearly ready. So they've got that nice white bloom on them, and I'm just going to take these out of the cabinet and put in the ones we've just made in, and I'll show you those once I've got them all hung up. Okay. All the salamis are hung up. Just need to ensure they're not touching each other, because they'll stick and they won't dry properly, so make sure they're not touching each other. Apart from that, it's then just a matter of setting the temperature and humidity for the first few days. It needs to be around about 23, 24 degrees to really get the fermentation going. Doesn't matter if it's low, it'll just take longer. But the humidity needs to be around about 90%. We don't want them drying out too quickly, otherwise the outside will dry and then that'll form a barrier, and then the middle of the salamis won't dry out and you won't end up with a very good result. So this is one of the samples that we put aside earlier on when we made them. So just have a little look at it. It's all taken pretty well. So check the pH. Just insert the pH paper directly in. Make sure it's touching. Leave it for a little while. Should be long enough. Check it against the paper. You can see it's down at 4.9. Maybe you can't see it, but anyway, trust me, it's down at 4.9. So anything below 5.2 is good. So we can now move the salami into the drying phase. So back at the cabinet, I've changed the temperature and humidity for the drying phase. So I dropped the temperature down to 12 degrees. It's not very important at this stage to have heat. At the moment it's a bit warm, but that's because I've literally just changed the temperature. But that's a bit warm for drying. Don't really want it below 20 degrees if you can, otherwise they'll start to bleed. Humidity I dropped initially to 80, and then over the next coming weeks I'll drop it down again a little bit, get it to 75. You don't really want to go below 75 on the humidity. The only other thing to remember is to clean your humidifier out, because it's been in there for a few days. So I need to wash that all out and dry it and put it away. So don't forget, because I've done that a couple of times and then it sort of gets itself clogged up and you can't get it to work again. So it's worth cleaning it out now before it gets all too much algae in it. Okay.